He leaned forward. A colossus of armor and bestial strength. Our faces were centimeters apart. And Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka spoke to me. Not in Orcish, not even in Low Gothic. In High Gothic. "A great fight," he said. He tapped me once on the chest. "My best enemy. Go to Armageddon. Make ready for the greatest fight." To understand why the greatest warlord in the galaxy released me, why he repaired me, restored my weapons and sent me home, you have to understand what I became. Not who, what. My name is Sebastian Yarrick, and this is not a story about hope. I watched the deployment embarkation as if seeing one for the first time. Below me stood the 77th Mortisian Infantry Regiment, the sons and daughters of a dying hive world, standing in phalanxes of geometric perfection. They were no longer individuals. They were a collective entity, a massive fist, as clockwork and unwavering as the limb of any titan. I was freshly minted, a commissar in name, still learning what the uniform meant. The peaked cap, the greatcoat, the crimson collar, these were not clothes. They were the office itself. The individual underneath was irrelevant, so I thought. My first assignment was Mistral, an industrial world choked with manufactorum dust and petty politics. The kind of place the Imperium forgets exists until something crawls out of the dark beneath it. Something had. It began with a preacher named Guillem. Long service had hollowed him out. He had lost his calling long before he lost his life. Then the ground opened beneath him. He fell into darkness. And in that darkness, something whispered. His failure was not that he heard it. His failure was that he listened. What rose from that pit wore Guillem's face. But Guillem was already dead. Mistral mattered for one reason. On that world, I fought a demon. Not with bolter and blade, though there was plenty of both, but with will. A creature called Galshana reached into my mind and showed me fragments of my own future. Shards of a mosaic I couldn't yet assemble. On many of those shards was the suggestion of a huge, hulking form. No details, just a blurry shadow, radiating intelligence and savagery on an unimaginable scale. And my right arm began to ache. I survived Mistral. My mentor, Lord Commissar Rasp, did not survive it whole. Sister Satheno of the Order of the Piercing Thorn walked out of that fight with eyes that had turned entirely gold, filled with terrible knowledge she had chosen to see. She told me I knew what I had to do. I said free will still counted for something. She answered, "We must act as if it does." I carried two things away from Mistral, the ache in my arm, and a truth that would sustain me through everything that followed. The Imperial Creed is a faith of discipline, of fire, of vengeance, of will. It has nothing to do with hope. Decades passed, war after war. Then I was seconded to the Armageddon Steel Legion and came to know that world's spires, its depths, its politics, and its overlord. Hermann von Strab, fourth son of Overlord Luther, younger brother of Anton, Otto, and Wilhelm, all deceased. The von Strab line of succession was neither patrilineal nor matrilineal. It was homicidal. I stood in his throne room, gold-veined marble, stained glass windows depicting von Strab as a colossus bestriding a diminished Armageddon, and tried to warn him. Something was coming. I could feel it in my gut, in my arm. Von Strab smiled. He was a squat man, almost as wide as he was tall, fat enough to look stronger than he was. A bionic monocle sat over his right eye, information boosts to his frontal lobe, amplifying his ability to foresee consequences. Given what happened to Armageddon, the widespread belief is that the monocle was a spectacular failure. Given what happened to von Strab, I'm not so sure. The warp storm hit first. It severed Armageddon from the wider Imperium, and behind the storm came the orks. Not a raiding party, not a war band, a crusade. The troop lifters carrying the 252nd Steel Legion to Hive Tempestora were shot down over the wastes. We crawled from the wreckage, half our troops dead, almost every vehicle destroyed, and began a forced march across the burning plain. Then we heard the war bikers. And then, from the walls of Tempestora, I heard something worse. The bellowing of the greenskin horde changed. It ceased to be the roar of thousands of savage throats shouting over each other. They found one voice. They chanted. 2 syllables, beating against the walls as if the sound alone could smash the rockcrete. Ghazghkull, Ghazghkull, Ghazghkull. And then it stopped. Every single orc fell silent. In a lifetime spent fighting greenskins, I had never heard that. A single orc that does not shout is more disturbing than 1,000 roaring brutes. And now all of them were quiet. Then the prophet spoke. His voice rumbled over the plain, rising from a deep guttural snarl to bellowing exhortation. I listened, conscious of the importance of the moment. He called his forces to conquest. He promised endless spoils and endless battle. And his horde gave me his full name. Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka. I was the only soul on those walls who understood Orcish. The only one who heard more than brute growls. The only one who realized that I, too, had underestimated the threat that had come to Armageddon. I had a vision of a monstrous will uniting orcs across the galaxy, launching a Xenos crusade the likes of which the Imperium had never faced. Stop him, I thought. Stop him! Von Strab abandoned Armageddon Prime and retreated behind the equatorial jungle, convinced it would stop the orcs. It did not. The war came to Hades Hive, and in Hades, the legend was born. The chanting reached me in the tunnels beneath Hades. My name, echoing through rockcrete and stone, both sides calling for me. On our side of the wall, the Steel Legion chanted Yarrick. From beyond, the orcs roared Ugulhard, their war boss, the giant who had led the first charge on Tempestora. And one guttural voice snarling my name like a curse. Yarrick! I stepped onto the battlements and found myself in a tableau of suspended war. Smoke rolled over the wall, cannon turrets demolished, craters filled with wreckage. And standing on the section of rampart he had claimed for himself, barely 5 meters away, the war boss, Ugulhard. His pistol was larger than a heavy bolter. His right arm was encased in a power claw. My right arm throbbed, the ancient pain reaching all the way from Mistral. The mosaic was coming together. I drew bolt pistol and sword. I charged him, came in under his swing, fired bolt shells into his chest plate, stabbed my blade into the meat of his gun arm. He hurled his ruined pistol at me. It smashed my left shoulder hard enough to spin me around, but it was my right shoulder that ached. The throbbing was worse than ever. The winds of Mistral blew against my neck across a century and a half. I had lived these moments before. Ugulhard swung again, slow. I jumped back, stepped left. His swing pulverized a crenulation. His momentum carried him around. His back was to me. I raised my blade. There was a blur. His sluggishness had been a ruse. The power claw closed around my sword arm. He straightened to his full height, stretched out his arm to show my dangling body, first to one army, then the other. He roared his triumph. He clamped down. My bones cracked. Blood burst from between the halves of the claw. My teeth ground together. I hissed in rage. And I did not cry out. He pulled. He crushed. And I came apart. The pain flared white and ultraviolet. At its center, as muscle shredded and bones splintered, there was an uncanny liberation. The moment in whose shadow I had lived since Mistral had come, and it could wear at me no longer. Unconsciousness reached for me. I rejected it. I had nothing now but my will. Ugulhard dropped me. I fell into a crouch. Blood jetted from my right shoulder. The war boss examined my severed limb in his claw. I was beneath his notice. My sword was within reach. I seized it with my left hand. I took my pain and all the agony of burning Armageddon, and forged it into a single act. I rose. "Ugulhard!" He looked down, surprised. I thrust the blade through his throat, all the way through. His eyes glazed with shock, his knees buckled. I sawed the blade back and forth, cutting through gristle and bone and my pain and my weakness. I cut all the way through. I carried his skull to the edge of the parapet. I held my trophy high before the orcs. "I am Yarrick!" I shouted in their barbaric tongue. "I look upon you, and you die!" And they turned, and they fled. And then, at last, I let the dark come. Months of war followed. Hades burned, it bled, it screamed, but it stood. I had vowed it would, and my vow is iron. I moved through the Underhive with a squad at my back. We found an orc nest. I told them, "Leave one alive." "Why?" asked Atroxa. "So it can spread the tail." I raised my new right arm. Ugulhard's claw, reforged, grafted to my shoulder, coursing with stolen power. I punched through the wall. The orcs reared back. Be the symbol. That is the needful role of the commissar. I learned that lesson early. But in Hades, I had to be more. Be the legend. The orcs had their profit. I would be something else. I crushed a greenskin skull with the claw. I glared at the stunned brutes. And as my eye blazed with killing ruby light, I became their nightmare. The Second War ended. Ghazghkull escaped. I went after him. Years of pursuit. I tracked his trail of devastation across the galaxy, fighting for every tank, every rifle, every man. The political minds called it a spent force. Every year without a new attack on Armageddon made the danger seem more remote. There were always other urgencies. They were fools. If there was ever to be an orc war boss who could unite the entire barbaric species, Thraka was that orc. He had the potential to become the orc emperor. That possibility should have been obvious to the greenest trooper. But for too many in the high places, it was a possibility too awful to contemplate. Better to bury your head in the sand than actually do something. I had to fight tooth and nail for every resource. I bargained. I compromised. I did things that wearied my soul, but I found what I needed. On Golgotha, a dust-choked hell world where the atmosphere itself waged war on us, we cornered him. The Baneblades led the advance. Behind them, 3 regiments. Thousands of soldiers, the pride of the Imperium, marching with purpose and discipline. When I close my eye, I can still see them with a clarity as sharp as pain. The waste sickens me. Ghazghkull had not been cornered. He had been waiting. I will not recount the full horror of what followed. The trap, the slaughter, the loss of the fortress of arrogance, the Baneblade that had carried my voice to the army, the betrayals of incompetent commanders, the capture. I was taken alive. And what Ghazghkull did with me was worse than death. I woke on an operating table filthy with blood. My right arm felt heavy, lethal. I looked. My claw was there, as it should be. My Bale Eye had been reattached. Correctly. I had not been rescued. I was still on the Space Hulk. My weapons had been restored by the enemy. The two realities were incompatible at so fundamental a level that their coexistence made my skin crawl. I walked through the door. Orcs lined both sides of the corridor. They had been watching for me. The moment I appeared, they roared their approval. They did not attack. I had been subjected to too many victory parades on Armageddon not to recognize one when it confronted me. I went numb, but I walked. I had no choice. It was the most obscene victory march of my life. I saw the evidence of the destruction I had caused. Scorch marks, patched ruptures, buckled flooring, collapsed ceilings. But it hadn't been enough. Only enough for this. I was living an event that had no name. At the end of the corridor, a launch bay, a human shuttle on the pad, and beside it, Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka. I did not let my confusion slow my stride. I stopped before him. I met his gaze with all the cold hatred of my soul. He radiated delight. He leaned forward, our faces centimeters apart, and he spoke, in High Gothic. A great fight, my best enemy. He stepped aside. Go to Armageddon. Make ready for the greatest fight. I entered the ship. I discovered my pilot, Colonel Rogger, who had been opened up, reorganized, fused with the ship's control systems, transformed into a fully aware servitor. I promised myself he would remain one forever. Take us out of here, I ordered. The rumble of the engines was drowned by the roar of the orks. I knew that roar for what it was, the promise of war beyond description. In silence, I made the orks a promise of my own. They were letting me go because I had lived up to my legend. I would do more than that when they came again. Legend would clash with legend. I would bring them more than war. I would bring them more than apocalypse. I would bring them extinction.